There is no other region in the Pokemon world that has a mythology like the Sinnoh/Hisui region. And it's a shame because this just adds so much flavor to the world. I'd love to see this for Hoenn, or Johto, or Kanto, or Galar. Hey Pokemon Masters, Toby here, and welcome to a video. Again, I'm filming this ahead of time. I think this is probably gonna be part of Hisui week to celebrate the release of Pokemon Legends Arceus. By the way, I'm giving away 3 copies. Leave a comment on this video. You're in with the chance of winning. I will be announcing the winners at the end of the stream/video where I'm playing the entire game. And as we all know, the Hisui region where Pokemon Legends Arceus is set is just Sinnoh in the past. It's different to the Sinnoh region by merit of name, but also being a time when people and Pokemon were separate, whereas now in modern day Sinnoh, people and Pokemon live and work together. We've also seen in trailers people refer to Sinnoh as if it's some kind of god or deity. Adamant and Iridia refer to Sinnoh with more of a, like, it's got like more of a personified presence about it. It's not the land on which they stand. That rhymed. So today's video is very simple. I want to read to you the 10 or so myths of the Sinnoh region that appear not just in the Canalive library where they can mostly be found, but also across the backs of the plates of Arceus and given to you orally through the form of haikus or Cynthia. And I want to share with you this region's mythology and lore. But now taking what we know about the Hisui region and sort of applying that to these myths. Sorry, this light is just an absolute bloomin' nuisance. I swear, what is wrong with it? Gosh darn it. Darn gosh it. The light of Arceus is broken! And my lighting here is going to be totally different now. Where was I? Oh yes, the Sinnoh myths just sort of taken in the context of Legends Arceus and the Hisui region. Given that many of these myths were probably written in the time of Legends Arceus, it's good to now just be on the lookout while we're playing the games and seeing where some of these myths may have come from. Right, with my lighting sorted, sit back and relax as I take you through the myths of the Sinnoh/Hisui region. Okay, Pokemon Masters, credit where it's due. These myths are all compiled on Bulbapedia on a page called Sinnoh Mythology. I'm gonna do them a little bit out of order to how they appear in that article, because I think some of them combine together to tell different stories, and some of them just make sense told one after the other. But we're gonna start off with this first myth, simply called the Sinnoh Myth. Betray not your anger, lest ... will come. Weep not with sorrow, or ... will draw near. When joy and enjoyment come natural as the very air, that is happiness. Let such be blessed by the hand of Master ... Those words were spoken often and customary. Right, what does any of that mean? Basically, the myth is saying don't be angry, don't be sorrowful, or something is going to appear. Find a way for enjoyment to come to you as naturally as air. That is the way of the blessed thing that is being referenced here. Probably Arceus, right? I think we're probably all on the same page that this is talking about Arceus. Don't be sorrowful or angry or Arceus will appear. I mean, that seems like a really good way to bait out a legendary Pokemon. Though, it is interesting to note that this is called the Sinnoh myth, and perhaps the ... should actually be replaced with the word Sinnoh. Then it would read, betray not your anger lest Sinnoh will come. Weep not with sorrow or Sinnoh will draw near. And that doesn't make a lot of sense when we're thinking about Sinnoh as a region. But if we're thinking about the Sinnoh myth, as it's called, the Sinnoh myth, as coming from the point of view as someone like Adamant or Iridia, who refer to Sinnoh as a thing, perhaps what they are talking about is Arceus or Dialga or Palkia. It still doesn't tell us a lot about the region. It's really vague, and the rest of these are way more specific as to what they're referring to. But basically, don't be sorrowful, don't be angry, be happy. Arceus makes it so. Okay, number 2, this one is specifically called the Sinnoh region's mythology. So region, it's probably implying the actual physical place. And it reads as follows. Long ago, when Sinnoh had just been made, people and Pokemon lived very separate lives. Immediately, by the way, this is a nod to the trailer for Pokemon Legends Arceus that says, long ago, people and Pokemon lived very separate lives. This is not to say they didn't help each other. No, indeed they did. They supplied each other with goods and supported each other, and one day a Pokemon proposed to always be ready to help humans. It asked that Pokemon be ready to appear before humans humans always, and to this day, that is why Pokemon appear in the tall grass. This is a really interesting thing because it really applies not just to the Hoenn, to the Sinnoh region, but to all other regions, including Hoenn, because that's how Pokemon appear to you in the tall grass. So at some point, Pokemon and people lived separate lives, and this is what we see in Pokemon Legends Arceus. Like I say, the trailer makes direct reference to this, and then at some point, somewhere along the line, a Pokemon, probably when Sinnoh had just been made, as in when the region stopped being called Hisui and started being called Sinnoh, a Pokemon decided that Pokemon should be ready to help people, that they should always work together. This again is likely Arceus, and it's probably the direct events of Legends Arceus that this myth is talking about. That by the end of the game, Arceus will have a better accepting of humans and ask that Pokemon be willing to help more humans more regularly, and ushering the time when people and Pokemon don't live separate lives. Myths number 3 and 4 go together quite well. We have the Sinnoh's myth and the Horrific myth, and they go as follows. 3 Pokemon there were, into the lakes they dove, deep, deep, drawing no breath. Deeper, deeper they dove, into suffocating depths they dove. Deeper than the deepest they alight, from the lake floor they rise, bearing with them the power to make vast lands, they rise again. And the Horrific myth reads, look not into the Pokemon's eyes, but in an instant you'll have no recollection of who you are. Return home, but how? There's nothing to remember. Dare not touch this Pokemon's body, but in 3 short days all emotions will drain away. Above all, harm not the Pokemon. In sanct 5 days, the offender will grow immobile entirely. Yeah, that's pretty horrific, and of course these are both myths about the lake trios, the lake guardians, Pokemon that according to their Pokédex entries have ties to emotion, willpower, and knowledge, and the idea that Uxie, if you look into its eyes, you'll forget everything you know because it is the knowledge Pokemon, and that with Mesprit, if you touch it, you will lose all of your emotions because it's the emotion Pokemon, and with Azelf, you'll lose the ability to move because it's the willpower Pokemon, you'll lose all your willpower. That's pretty dark, but additionally these Pokemon dive deep into the bottom of those lakes across Sinnoh to draw some kind of power from the earth, or maybe they're going so deep into the lakes that they end up in the distortion world or something to get their powers, which can create vast lands. So the powers of these Pokemon are both very good and very bad. Ultimately, these Pokemon have been deified. The people who are creating these myths probably don't understand these Pokemon's powers in a particularly scientific way. All they know are that these Pokemon are powerful, they probably help shape the earth, don't mess with them. Right, myth number 5 is a fascinating one. It is the Veilstone Myth, and it doesn't really tie into anything that is like part of the Sinnoh story. I've actually recently done a live action video where I talked all about this, so do check that out. I'll leave that link in the description as well. But it reads as follows. A young man, callow and foolish in innocence, came to own a sword. With it he smote Pokemon, which gave sustenance with carefree abandon. Those not taken as food, he discarded with no afterthought. So already we've got a guy with a sword, and swords aren't really mentioned much in the Pokemon world. Obviously there's Zacian's sword, but like I don't think it's going to be that. The following year, after smiting all these Pokemon, no Pokemon appeared. Larders grew bare. The young man seeking the missing Pokemon journeyed afar. Long did he search, and far and wide too, until one he did find. Asked he, why do you hide? I only killed all your friends, why are you hiding? To which the Pokemon replied, if you bear sword and bring harm upon us, with claws and fangs we will exact a toll. From your kind we will take our toll, for it must be done. Done it must be to guard ourselves, and for it I apologize. So the Pokemon saying like, look, if you're gonna go around smiting us with your sword, we're going to attack you back with fangs and claws. Look, I'm not happy about this situation, but if you're gonna do this and you're just gonna kill all of us and completely like tilt the balance of nature into an unsustainable slaughter spree, then I'm not cool with that, says this Pokemon. This Pokemon could be Giratina, could be Arceus. So to the skies the young man shouted in dismay. In having found this sword I have lost so much. Gorged with power I grew blind to Pokemon being alive. I will never fall savage again. This sword I denounce and forsake. I plead for forgiveness, for I was but a fool. So saying, the young man hurled the sword to the ground, snapping it. Seeing this, the Pokemon disappeared to a place beyond seeing. So this powerful, mysterious Pokemon that you had to journey far and wide to find ultimately saw the sword being snapped and went, okay, I guess we're good now, and then just disappeared into a place beyond seeing. That's why a lot of people believe that this refers to Giratina disappearing into the distortion world. But again, in the context of Legends Arceus, I wonder if this could be talking about Arceus. That a long time ago, someone went around with a sword slaying Pokemon, and that ultimately Arceus was like, this, I'm gonna start turning Pokemon on you. And that's kind of what we see with the alpha Pokemon, the enraged Pokemon that appear in the game, that they're bearing a toll with fangs and claws, attacking people, until eventually the humans said, okay, none more of this. We've got to live a life, in balance with Pokemon, and that allows the age of people and Pokemon working together to be ushered in. There is also a whole theory about the sword, but again, I'm gonna leave that in the live action video and how that ties into like the Pokemon manga and Hooper and a whole bunch of other stuff. Right, let's talk about Sinnoh Myth number 6, the original story, which I think is probably the closest thing that we'll get to a description of the origins of the Pokemon world. In the beginning, there was only a churning turmoil of chaos, and at the heart of that chaos, where all things became one, appeared an egg. Churning turmoil of chaos, we're seeing a kind of universe of particles and atoms and things, but there's not really like a universe yet. Everything's got to condense before, well, in our universe, a big bang happens, a big explosion, but here instead, an egg is formed. Having tumbled from the vortex, the egg gave rise to the original one, and from itself, two beings the original one did make. Time began to spin, and space began to expand. So here we're really seeing the birth of Dialga and Palkia as not separate Pokemon created by the original one, but actually they are part of the original one. Like, if you smushed an Arceus, a Dialga, and a Palkia together, then they would create some kind of more true Arceus, some bigger, well, the original one, I guess. From itself again, three living things the original one did make. We're talking about the Lake Trio now. The two beings wished, and from them matter came to be. The three beings wished, and from them spirit came to be. This is our creation mythos in the Pokemon world, with the lake spirits being responsible for spirit and life and people and Pokemon, and the Dialga and Palkia being sort of responsible for time and space and the existence and balance of the universe. The world created, the original one took an unyielding sleep. So the original one, Arceus, the Pokemon that we find asleep at the top of the Hall of Origin, well, actually we don't know it's asleep, but presuming it's asleep at the top of the Hall of Origin, watching over its creation, Arceus isn't actually the complete original one, but instead Dialga, Palkia, Mesprit, Uxie, and Azelf, they've all split off from this creature, and Arceus is just what's left. I think. I do wonder if the Legends Arceus game is gonna shed some more light into this in the post game, maybe with like a new form for Arceus or something like that. I also think the idea of this swirling chaos, this void and then came an egg, could be talking about how the unknown came from an alternate dimension to maybe code or create that egg. That could be a way of interpreting it when you look into the unknown lore, but that in itself is another Pokemon theory. Okay, Sinnoh Myth number 7, we have the Sinnoh Folktales. These also appear in the Canalive library, and they come in 3 mini folk stories. So the idea that these are like a true part of the Sinnoh and Hisui lore, I don't know, but in theory, all of these myths stem from something real. We have Sinnoh Folk Story number 1. Pick clean the bones of Pokemon caught in the sea or stream. Thank them for the meals they provide and pick their bones clean. When the bones are as clean as can be, set them free in the water from which they came. The Pokemon will return fully fleshed and it begins anew. We're just talking about the circle of life here. Obviously, we are referencing the idea that people and Pokemon do live in this symbiotic relationship where people eat Pokemon and Pokemon maybe eat people. I don't know. Certainly people eat Pokemon, and that there is a level of nature and balance to that. As we sort of saw earlier on with the Veilstone Myth, that can be overdone when you're not respecting the balance of nature and just going around with a sword killing a bunch of Pokemon with carefree abandon, as they talk about that, discarding Pokemon without an afterthought. Here, the importance is, look, if you're gonna kill a Pokemon and eat it, make sure to pick those bones clean, is the idea. This is a really horrible thought. Like, I like my Pokemon partners. I don't want to think about eating Pikachu. Sinnoh Folk Story number 2 reads, there lived a Pokemon in a forest. In the forest, the Pokemon shed its hide to sleep as a human. Awakened, the human dons the Pokemon hide to roam villages. So we're talking about a Pokemon that can shift between being a person and a Pokemon shifting its human side and then shifting its Pokemon side. And this might actually well be a reference to the new Hisuian Zoroark, because as we know, Zoroark has the ability Illusion, which allows it to transform into all sorts of things, including, as we see in the movie, people. And finally, we have Sinnoh Folk Story story number 3, which I believe has 2 different versions. There once were Pokemon that became very close to humans. There once were humans and Pokemon that ate together at the same table. There was a time when there existed no differences to distinguish the two. Now, as I'm finding it, and I will leave a link in the description, the Japanese, the original text for this mythology is a little bit different, but I think it implies the exact same thing, which is there once were Pokemon that married people. There once were people that married Pokemon. This was a normal thing because long ago, people and Pokemon were the same. Now, I don't think when it uses the word married, it's what you're thinking about, as in a marriage ceremony where you're talking about them, you know, getting married and having kids and living a lovely life together. Sinnoh mythology's weird. I think it's using the word marriage here very specifically as the idea of 2 things coming together and sharing a life together. This isn't a romantic type of marriage. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, well, like when you say those 2 ideas, they marry together so well. We're just talking about 2 things that go together really, really well. They belong together. People and Pokemon in this world belong together. It's not talking about it in a romantic sense or in a Western sense of marriage. The point of the Sinnoh Folk Story 3 simply is that people and Pokemon are supposed to live their lives side by side. That's it. It's nothing weird. People and Pokemon becoming the same, there's no differences to distinguish the 2. There is a time at some point in Sinnoh's history that despite the fact that people ate Pokemon, or maybe even Pokemon ate people, they were all part of this circle of life together. I think that's what the Sinnoh folk stories are trying to get across, that people and Pokemon live life together. Or certainly that they should live life together, and that's the ultimate thing that should be respected, a level of balance and care between the 2 species. Number 8 is a very simple one. It's the Snowpoint Myth written on Regigigas's statue that then comes to life. A body of rock, a body of ice, a body of steel. When we gather these 3, the king will appear. Now, I've done a whole, this is another live action video I've done, video about Regigigas and like the mythology behind it. And I suspect whoever wrote this and inscribed this onto Regigigas's statue or in Regigigas's chamber is not the same people who's writing the rest of the Sinnoh mythology. I don't think this is something we're gonna see a lot of in the Hisui region. I actually think this is to do with the Draconids, who are responsible for the locking down of the other Regis across the Hoenn region and other areas of the Pokemon world. It is interesting that Regidrago and Regieleki aren't mentioned at all, and I suppose there must be something where Registeel, Regice, and Regirock are like closer to Regigigas compared to the other ones. This is very evidently reflected in Regigigas's design in the fact that it has 3 sets of eyes, each one representing the colors associated with Regirock, Regice, and Registeel. Regieleki and Regidrago must be somehow lesser in the hierarchy of Regis. But yeah, I think whoever wrote this is probably the Draconids, and again, I've done a whole video on that you can check out. Number 9 is not a verbal myth. It is actually just a painting that you can interpret however you want. We find this in Celestic Town, in some ruins at the very base of Mount Cornet. What is so interesting about this painting of a red circle in the middle of Mesprit, Azelf, and Uxie, and outside the chamber we see depictions of Dialga and Palkia. What's really interesting about this is Celestic Town is one of the oldest towns in all of the Sinnoh region. It probably existed during the time of Hisui, and it's likely that the town was built around this shrine. This shrine is at the core of what's going on. So whatever this story is, whatever this painting is trying to depict was so important that the people that discovered these godly Pokemon on Spear Pillar, maybe during the time of Legends Arceus, felt the need to rush down from the mountain, and as soon as they could find access to paints and walls to paint on, they needed to tell this story and get it written. They didn't wait till they were back in Jubilife Village to note this stuff down and write it down. As soon as they could get anywhere down from the mountain where there would be people about, they needed to record this history. What does it all mean though? I don't know. It's a cave painting. It's very open to interpretation, and all it really does is show us Mesprit, Azelf, and Uxie. Cynthia does give a whole interpretation of exactly what this means, but I'm not going to read it all out. It's quite long-winded. But effectively, the gist of it is some people interpret this painting that the red light in the middle of these 3 is Dialga or Palkia, or maybe it's Giratina, or maybe it's Arceus, and that's pretty much it. And there are 2 more left. The next one is all about the Arceus plates. In Platinum version, there's a hiker who goes around the Sinnoh region. He appears in the Orberg mine, he appears in the Canalife library, and he just has information about, well, yeah, he's in the region investigating myths like this one, talking about how the region came into being, and talking about inscriptions that he's found on the various Arceus plates. Yeah, he elaborates on them, but I'm going to just read you what the Arceus plates say. Sinnoh's beginning as told on the plate. plates. The original one breathed alone before the universe came. So we're talking about, again, that thing to do with the original story. It's just the egg, it hatches. There is the original one before it splits off and creates time and space. It's a creature breathing alone before the universe really exists. When the universe was created, its shards became this plate, which is really interesting because it's implying that the plates are sort of shards of cosmic energy, which kind of makes sense because we've talked on the channel before about how all the different Pokemon types are like expressions of infinity energy, the life force of all Pokemon. And so these different elemental plates all represent the different ways that energy can be refracted and turned into these shards. The power of defeated giants infuses this plate. Now, I thought that this was going to be some kind of nod to Gigantamax Pokemon, but I guess not. What these defeated giants are, whether they're real, whether they're metaphorical, whether we're talking about Regis, whether we're talking about something like Eternatus, I don't know at this point. Maybe we're talking about pre-selected noble Pokemon that appear in Legends Arceus, because they are bigger than regular Pokemon. 2 beings of time and space set free from the original one, that one's pretty obvious. 3 beings were born to bind time and space, those of course being the late trio. 2 make matter, 3 make spirit shaping the world, we've referenced that already. And the powers of plate are shared among Pokemon, so that's talking about how these shards of the universe become the Pokemon types, and that's why each of the plates are different types. And the rightful bearer of a plate draws from the plate that it holds. So that's either referring to the fact that if a fire Pokemon holds a fire plate and uses a fire move, it's going to draw power from that, or it's talking about Arceus changing its type to match the plate that it's holding, being the rightful bearer. So that is the mythology of the Arceus plate. There is something interesting that the hiker does say. The hiker actually says, in contrast to this, that he was told that this plate was created at the same time as Sinnoh, which is different to the account that is actually on the plates that says that the shards came to being when the universe was created. I don't know if the universe and Sinnoh were created at the same time, or if this could be referring to Sinnoh in that way that Adamant and Iridia do, where Sinnoh is like, the shards came into being at the same time as Dialga, Palkia, Arceus, whatever Sinnoh is referring to in the Legends Arceus game. But it is interesting and food for thought. And there is a final 11th Sinnoh myth, but this video's kind of gone on for long enough already. By the way, if you're still watching this video, thank you, secret audience. But yes, there is an 11th Sinnoh myth that actually only appears for the first time in Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, and that is the Manaphy myth, the Sea Legends Hollow myth. I've done a whole video about it. There's a whole separate theory just on that one myth alone and what that could mean for Legends Arceus. I hope whether Legends Arceus is out or it's about to come out, you are enjoying it. Thank you for watching and for supporting this video. This is just while I'm dealing with a house move, something that I could film ahead of time, and I think it's really interesting. And it's really interesting to play Legends Arceus, thinking about it through the lens of these myths that were probably written at that time. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and of course, soar high, Pokemon Masters.
This is Ash Ketchum. You just watched a video by Birdkeeper Toby. That makes you a Pokemon Master.
Wow, a huge thank you to those of you who are supporting this channel, especially those of you on Patreon, and the big patrons of this month, JD Gottlich, Pokebliss, Michael Hornshoe, and Jed Rubin. Thank you.